You can call 888-467-4200, 888-467-4200, or diamondformulas.com. Ernest Borgnine, how are you? Ernie?
That's new.
I want to start, if I can, from the inception of you being the greatest actor that ever lived. Who was responsible?
That line.
I know it. That's my own. It's not a line. It's the truth. And I want to know, and I'm sure the world would like to know, who was the person that put the bug in your ear to be an actor?
Well, actually, it was my mother.
Yay.
My mother was the one that suggested it after I spent 10 years in the Navy, 6 on my own and 4 for the government, you know?
Yeah.
And I came out after World War II, and I didn't know where to turn, what to do, or anything else. And one day I went home, and I was all set to go back into the service. I said, at least I'll get something, you know, from my money, and I get a pension. And she looked at me kind of funny, and she said, tell me, said, have you ever thought of becoming an actor? Says, you always like to make a damn fool of yourself in front of people. Why don't you give it a try? I was seated at the kitchen table, and I looked up, and I saw this yellow light come on, and I said, Mom, that's what I'm going to be.
Wow.
And 10 years later, I had somebody was handing me an Academy Award.
Only 10 years? That's phenomenal.
Well, it is. What do you call it when you chew on your fingernails, you know? For 10 years, I did nothing but chew on my fingernails and worry when the next job was coming. Yeah, but it worked, and by golly, when the time came, and I saw the opportunity, and we took it, and bam, that's what happened. There you go.
Yeah.
But she never saw me on the stage, never saw me in the film, never. Never lived long enough to see it. But
God bless her.
Yeah, I know she's up there watching. Don't worry.
Do you remember the first stage play you did?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But you did Great Depression, The Glassman.
At school, and that was the first time I'd ever been on stage.
Oh, my God.
And, well, it was the second time, actually. I went to school. I went to a Hill House High School in New Haven, Connecticut, and there they put me on the list for the play at the end of the year, you know what I mean?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I believe it or not, I played a Chinese boy.
Bernie?
Anyway, it was fun, and one thing led to another, but I never thought I'd become an actor, not ever, until my mother mentioned it. And it was the easiest thing, it was like falling off a log, that's it. And I went on and I did it, and bam, there to go.
Where did you get your training at at one of the acting schools?
Training? There's no training in acting.
Really? Good for you, Ernie. So you never had to go to an acting school.
I went to 3 months to an acting school called the Randall School of Dramatic Arts.
Wow.
And that was in Hartford, Connecticut, and I was going every day on the railroad and everything else. And I did that for 3 months, and I think I learned one thing. I mentioned it here because when I said it, the teacher fell on the floor.
Ernie.
Anyway, all the kids who laughed at me and everything else, and I was the oldest man. I was 28 years old. And the oldest one there were the kids out of high school. They were 18, 19 years old at the most. And I'd already seen 10 years in the Navy, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then they'd come up with all kinds of little things to do, like give you a little, they put together like a raft, a rooster, and a rainbow. And make something out of that.
Oh.
And there you go. And so, it's called imagination, naturally, and that's what acting is all about. It's imagination.
So those were improvisations.
That's where I'm...
Improvs.
That's it. That's it, exactly.
So how did you do a rooster?
Easy, a quack like one.
Well, Nancy has a question. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I want you to tell the story about when you had no money for food and you saw the guy with the cart.
Chestnuts.
Oh, the chestnuts.
Yes. I love that.
Well, I tell you, one day I was walking along 10th Avenue in New York, and I'm saying to myself, you dummy, why did you ever get into this business? I mean, I love my mother and everything else, but my goodness, well, I was making no headway at all, pounding on table and on doors and everything else, trying to make a buck here and a buck there, and trying to keep my family together. And suddenly I smelled chestnuts, and it reminded me of my mother when she used to cut the chestnuts and put them on the stove, and the whole house would be permeated with that wonderful smell. And I went a little closer, not to buy any, because I didn't even have money to buy a chestnut, but just to smell. And I saw a sign on that vendor's cart that became my philosophy of life, believe it or not, and the title of my book, but they wouldn't let me use it. And the title was, I don't want to set the world on fire, I just want to keep my nuts warm.
That was an amazing story.
Oh,
Yeah.
God bless
Unbelievable.
him.
I'll
God
tell you.
bless him.
I'll tell you another one. I called Ernie on a Sunday afternoon, and I said, "Papa, we're going to take a ride. We're going to go somewhere, and I'm making lunch." "Yeah, where are we going?" I said, "I'll tell you when I pick you up." "All right." I said, "I'll be there at 2 o'clock." 2 o'clock, I ring the bell. He gets in the car. He says, "What'd you make, kid?" I said, "Linguine and clams." "Oh, my God, that's great. Where are we going?" "We're going to go see Frank Sinatra." "Stop the car. What are you, crazy?" He said, "I haven't seen him in a long time." I said, "No, it's going to be a great deal. You're going to have a good time. He's looking forward to it." "He is?" "Yeah, no kidding." So we drive to Malibu, and we pull up Malibu. I got the key. I said, "Come on, Ernie, let's go." So he's behind me, and I see he's shuffling. I says, "Come on, come on, come on." So I open the door, and I grab his arm, and he's behind me, and I'm pulling him in there. And as we walk in, the light is coming in, and there's Frank squinting from his kitchen table, and he's looking, and finally he could see. The vision is there, and he looks, and he goes, "Fatso." And Ernie goes, "Maggio." And they start rapping in Italian, and they started eating linguine and clams.
Oh, no
I was
kidding.
in heaven, and I'll never forget that day as long as I live.
Fatso and Maggio meet again.
Yeah, they
Oh,
did. And
That's
they
something else.
really loved it. And Ernie loved Frank,
That
You
is
know,
something
vice
else.
versa.
He was so thankful that Larry brought him to Frank's because it was a reunion he never dreamed of.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
How old was he at the time when you guys had this reunion?
Oh, wow. Frank's been gone, 16 years?
Yeah, he was. in
It's
his
20
little-
years ago.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, not too long ago. So Ernie had a
Yeah.
chance to meet up with Frank again.
Oh,
Wow.
and yeah, it was wonderful.
I'd like to be there. Imagine that meeting.
It was like
Jeez.
they just bumped it. They were like brothers.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what happens? These I don't mean to be disrespectful, but the older people, they get up there, and they lose touch with each other, as we all do.
Sure.
So it's wonderful to reunite them like that, and Larry's so good at it.
And
Well, you know,
they talked about Tony Curtis,
Yeah.
and they talked about how Frank and Tony Curtis used to go to Las Vegas, and they used to bring the head of the Sands Hotel with them, and then in the middle of the trip, Frank would say, "Pull over, Tony," and he'd put a finger in the guy's back and say, "Get out of the car, I'm robbing you." "Not again, Frank." And he'd take his money from his sack, 15 grand, and say, "That's for keeping me overtime."
Oh, man.
Wonderful story.
When we come back, we're going to talk with the legendary Robert Wagner about his memories of Ernie. Also coming up later in the show, Dennis Farina and the director of Ernie's last film, Elia Petridis. He's going to be coming on the show as well. Also, Tim Conway and so much more right here on the PM Show with the Minettis. We're remembering Ernest Borgnine. We'll be back right after this.
Hi, folks. I want to tell you about the 21st Century